It's known as the world's worst kept secret in football. Declan Rice looks like he's leaving West Ham in the summer. Look, we know this, we've known this has been coming for a very long time, but there's more to this story than meets the eye. And it's actually a little bit more complicated than I thought it would be. I thought it would be the owner coming out and saying, oh, West Ham are desperate to keep him. We're desperate to keep him. But, you know, the player wants to leave and the player wants to do what he wants to do. And Declan Rice would be the person saying, well, you know, I'm not sure what I want to do. Like, you know, I feel like I need to leave for the next step in my career. But it's almost the opposite. It seems like, you know, Sullivan is flogging Declan Rice. I'm not so sure Rice is convinced he wants to leave West Ham this season. You know, and it could be good PR. As we all know, you know, football players are trained in PR. We know what they're like. They never really give a straight answer. But, you know, you see the scenes after this European Cup. You know, the fans, 1 more year, Declan Rice, 1 more year, I say. And he's sitting there, breathing it in, taking it in. His teammates, 1 more year, Declan Rice, 1 more year, I say. You know, they're all buying into it. And Rice, in the meantime, when the media has speculated over it, because that's all this European final has been about in the pre-matches, where's Declan Rice going? After the final, where's Declan Rice going? But all throughout of it, Declan Rice has said, I want to focus on the club. I want to focus on winning the trophy. Now he's done that. He's not done like an Eden Hazard, like I thought he would, and say, you know, it's really gutting, but I feel like I need to take the next step in my career. He said, I'm a West Ham player. You know, I've got 2 years left of my contract. I love this club. I love playing for this club. Certainly, I think if the club sat there and said, look, we're going to sell you next year, I don't think he'd be upset about that. The only thing for me is, if we sell him now, we could get 150 million. Well, maybe not 150. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. I think Declan Rice is priceless, completely priceless. But we're probably going to get more within the reign of, I'd say, 90 to 120. I think realistically, we're probably going to get about 100, 110 million. That's not what I think Declan Rice is worth. I think he's worth more than that, to be honest with you. Young English player. You know, if you sold Harry Kane this season, I think he'd be worth about 110, 120 million. He's 30 years old. So, and Jude Bellingham is going to Real Madrid for around 115 million pounds. So I honestly don't think that 120, 110 is a bad price for Declan Rice, especially if he's going to an English club, you get the English tax, you know. But I think if we sell him now, we can reinvest that money well. If we sell him in a year's time, then he's got a year left on his contract. He might just run it out, and it'd be more worth sort of, let's say, 50 to 60 million. Is a whole season of Declan Rice worth 60 million pounds, 70 million pounds? I'm not so sure it is. I'm really not so sure it is. So unless he's got plans to have a contract extension at the club, I honestly don't think it is not wrong to sell him. What I do think is wrong is after a European final, after, you know, because all Declan Rice wants to do is sit there and enjoy his European final. You know, he's worked hard all season. He's captained his side to their first trophy, European trophy, and I think it was like 49 years or something ridiculous like that. All he wants to do is sit there and celebrate, you know, be with his family, be with his teammates, have probably his first beer in, you know, God knows how long, and have a night out and celebrate. And all anyone can do is sit there and heap on the, are you leaving? Where are you going? How much you're going for? And then our, you know, owner piles onto that, you know, and comes on TalkSport and publicly says, yeah, we're going to sell him, which, number one, I think is ridiculous, because, you know, if you want to sell Declan Rice, you tell everyone we're not selling him. You know, we don't want to sell him. We're going to keep him on for a year. Even if you're not going to do that, even if you know for a fact that Declan Rice has no plans to stay at West Ham United, you don't say that. You say, we're going to keep him on. We're desperate to keep him. We know what we are, and you know, decisions with the player, but we want to keep him. We don't want to sell him, because, you know, if we're sitting there saying, oh, now's the time we want to sell him, then, you know, people know that we're going to want to sell him this year, because we don't want to sell him next year when he's going to be cheaper and have less on his contract. So we've basically done the opposite to what we could have done, which is, oh, we'll sell him early because then we're not forced to sell him. But we've alluded to everyone that he wants to leave and that we need to sell him now, because if we don't sell him now, he's going to be really cheap in the summer of next year, if that makes any sense. So essentially what you should have done is, number one, not come out after the European final. Number two, probably not come out at all and say publicly we're selling Declan Rice. That is just, it's just you know, it's just suicide, isn't it? It's literally social suicide. I don't understand why a club of a big manager, why Sullivan would come out and say, we're selling Declan Rice. Now's the time to sell him. We can't keep him at the club. He wants to take the next step. He's basically forcing to move out, which I don't even believe is the case. You know, I think Declan probably would happily stay another year, but he's like, oh, you know, he rejected a 200k contract, so you know, we're not really sure what to do. I think putting this on the player is disrespectful to Declan Rice, for one, and number two, I just don't understand why you're talking about it. Like, you shouldn't. Most managers, I keep saying managers, most owners keep as far away from the actual football as possible. You know, Sullivan is such a hands-on owner. He's always sitting there trying to, you know, stick his 2 pennies in on Talk Sport with his best friends in it. It's just ridiculous. I don't understand why he does it. Most owners just cough up the money, make the odd sort of comment, make the odd PR stunt and leave. I don't understand why he's sitting there saying, oh, we're going to sell Declan Rice. It is literally just social suicide. And it was such a lovely moment for the club, and he's basically just come out and spoiled it a little bit. You know, let's not pretend. We know Declan Rice is probably leaving in the summer. You know, we're not stupid. This isn't a surprise to us. This isn't 3 or 4 years ago that he said this and there'd be more outrage about it. We know, but why would you come out and say it? I mean, David Moyes probably knows he's out in the summer, but, you know, even he just sits there and says, look, who knows? Who knows what's happening? Who knows what's gonna be happening in the summer? You know, Rice is a West Ham player. Even Rice himself has come out and said, look, I'm a West Ham player. Who knows what's going to happen? And then Sullivan just has to sit there and stick his oar in. I mean, I don't understand why he does it. Look at Bowley as well as a football owner. He tries to stick his oar in so much. You're going to sit there and tell me that Graham Potter said no to Leandro Trossard for 20 million and said yes to Mudryk for 70, yes to Madueke for God knows how much? No, not a chance. He's another hands-on owner. And look what he's done to Chelsea. Owners do not belong running a football club in that way. You know, that's why they hire a director of football. That's why you hire a sporting director. That's why you hire a manager, for Christ's sake. You know, if Sullivan thinks he can do such a good job of running the club, then I don't know why he's hiring all these people every year. You know, sack them all off. You know, might as well run on the bloody pitch, mate. You know, play goalkeeper, play striker. If you're gonna, you know, you save yourself quite a few bob, wouldn't you? Maybe he's our Declan Rice replacement because he seems to know everything about the football club and how to run it. No, there's people in place to do that for you. You shouldn't be sitting there and sticking your oar in and creating all this stuff about Declan Rice. And I think if I was Rice myself, I'd be pretty pissed off. And I think fans, rightfully so, are pissed off with the decision. But, you know, let's forget all of that. Declan Rice is probably leaving this summer. We knew that already. And it's probably a good time for him to leave. You know, he's on the high of winning West Ham that European trophy. He's leaving us in good stead. If he gives us 10 million or whatever to allow us to sign a replacement or do whatever, not that you can replace Declan Rice. He is just levels above many players we've had at West Ham. I don't even know where he sits in terms of the West Ham greats. He's probably, it's controversial. I'm a youngster. I've never really watched Bobby Moore play that much. So I don't want to say he's like Bobby Moore. I don't want to sit there and pretend that I've seen, you know, every single Jeff Hurst game or Martin Peters game. So I'm not gonna sit there and put him up with the likes of them. You know, maybe people who are a little bit older than me, like Mark, of course, would be able to tell me that maybe he is. But if you're putting him up with the recent West Ham, you know, sort of stars, he's up there with like the Paolo Canios, the Julian Dixon, Billy Bonds. You know, he's a West Ham legend, isn't he? Let's be honest. He's a West Ham legend. He's probably one of the best players we've ever had at the club. What he's going to go and do and achieve in his career is going to be monumental. You know, he deserves to go out and win Champions Leagues. I really hope, as a West Ham fan, that he goes out and wins all these trophies. You know, I feel sorry for Harry Kane. I think if I was a Spurs fan, I'd actually want Harry Kane to leave a little unselfishly because, you know, the guy is 30. He's such a good player and he's won no trophies at Spurs. You know, Obama's got more trophies than him, which is no disrespect to him because he's a bloody wonder kid. But Harry Kane has had an illustrious career. You know, he could match Alan Shearer for the most goals in the Premier League's history. And yet he doesn't look like he's going to win a trophy in his career unless he goes somewhere like City, but he's not going to go there because of Haaland. If he goes United, he's not guaranteed a trophy. You know, maybe he goes abroad to Bayern Munich and he's guaranteed a trophy, or, you know, Real Madrid with Benzema leaving. But, you know, he's really missed a trick not going somewhere and getting consistent Champions League football. I mean, Harry Kane will not be playing in Europe next season if he stays at Spurs. That is mental. Harry Kane should not be sitting there not playing European football. And I don't want that for Declan Rice either. I don't want Declan Rice to be stuck at a club that's not playing at his level. You know, I think I'd actually be more proud of Declan Rice if he leaves and actually goes on to achieve the things he does. Yeah, it's a bit different with players like Lampard and maybe Carrick or Ferdinand, because I don't think they were as proper West Ham fans as Declan Rice. You know, Declan Rice has cemented himself on West Ham's legacy. And then if he goes on and wins a Champions League, as I'm sure he will, goes on and achieves a brilliant career, I think that as a West Ham fan will give you so much pride that our academy can produce a player of that level. And I just think now is the perfect time for him to leave. The perfect time. We're going to get a bit of money for him. You know, he's just obviously won the trophy. He's leaving on really good terms, apart from, you know, what Sullivan's saying, which I think is a little bit backhanded. But now is the time, I think, for Declan Rice to depart West Ham. You know, if I'm thinking without my football brain on, if I'm thinking without my, you know, logical head, would I want Declan Rice at West Ham for another year? Of course. You know, he's irreplaceable. I don't know who we're going to get in to replace him. X has obviously alluded to today that Edson Alvarez of Ajax is a potential replacement. Also looked at, I think, Kone as well and Manu. But I think they're being signed by Liverpool as we speak. So I think they're not being looked at as targets. You know, would I want Declan Rice to stay on West Ham? Of course I would. Of course I would. But if I'm thinking logically, we can get around 110 million for him now. And he's leaving on really good terms. In terms of where I want him to go, I really don't want him to go to Arsenal, to be honest. I don't think they appreciate him enough. I'd love him to go to City. And also that would open the door maybe for a Phillips signing, which, you know, he wouldn't replace him necessarily, but I feel like he'd be a good start. There's also plenty of players at City that we might be able to go in for. For instance, maybe like Nathan Ake might come to West Ham. You know, there's plenty of players we could look at and explore with City. I think if we sold him to them, but they don't look like they're making much of a move for him. I mean, Arsenal, yeah, we could maybe sign a decent player from Arsenal. But I just can't take the Arsenal fans. You know, they've sat there and said, "Oh, Partey's better than him. Oh, Xhaka's better than him. Oh, so El Neni." And they're going to turn around and just say that he's an absolute baller when he plays for him. And I just really, and also I know that if he doesn't play 10 out of 10 for the first couple of weeks, all the Arsenal fans are going to get on his back. All the Arsenal fans are going to have a go at him, and it could really harm his career. I think going somewhere like City, same with United, very toxic club. You know, look at Harry Maguire, David De Gea, the things that they've suffered while playing there. And I think they're really, really bad at developing young players. You know, Jadon Sancho's gone there and his career's gone up in dust. Anthony's gone there, really exciting young talent, and he's not produced much. Marcus Rashford has only really just been on a comeback this season, and it was only really a purple patch. And, you know, he's getting on a little bit. I don't think Man United is a great club to develop young players in. Could be controversial because I know a lot of really good players come out of their academy. But to be honest, look at Alanga as well. You know, he's not getting much game time. Obviously, Greenwood's a different scenario. Ahmed Diallo, Garnacho, he looks really good, but will he probably drop off in a couple of years? Who knows? I don't think United's a good move for him either. Go to Bayern Munich. It's not as a competitive a league, but you're basically guaranteed to be in the Champions League, guaranteed to fight for the league title. Real Madrid, another one I think would have been a good one, but they've signed Bellingham. I doubt they're going to sign Rice because they'd be spending about 200 million in one season. We've also got Camavinga there. They won't be desperate for a player like Rice. Bellingham, of course, you know, you had to sign up. He's going to be a world beater for the next 10 years or so. So I do hope that Bayern Munich do kind of go back into the race for him. I really hope City go in for him. You know, if they lose Gundogan, I think Rice is like a perfect replacement for him. You know, sitting in that number 8 spot, I think he'd be absolutely quality. I think he needs to get forward more at a club like City. I don't think he should be shackled to the number 6 spot as he has been at West Ham or, you know, he has been for England. I think his best move and his best football will be played at number 8. But, you know, speaking of selling, selling Declan Rice in the summer, we have got the European Champions merch, the West Ham Way European Champions merch, which will be dropping. I'm not sure exactly when the video is dropping, but should be dropping within the next week or so. There will be a link down below for that. So if you do fancy getting yourself some memorabilia for a monumentous win and maybe some Declan Rice merch, then go to the link below. And of course, Patreon members get a cheeky discount. But let me know what you think in the comments. Should we sell Declan Rice now? Will he stay on at the club? You know, who would you like to replace him? Where would you like to go? And I'll see you on the next one.